Hi, I'm going to continue on doing the clapboard on my house up here. I wanted to show you guys how I'm doing these miter corners, and we'll get right to it. I'm going to overcut it about an inch just so it's easier to handle the material. I'm going to double check my measurement. Check your measurement twice, cut once. Using my square to strike the line perpendicular to the board. Don't forget to put on your safety glasses when you're sawing. Here I'm going to be taking a measurement from the overlap of the clapboard. I'm going to measure the right side, and then I'm transferring that measurement to the left side of the window. And I'll also be striking a line with the level so that it's easier, to follow the line. Here I line the clapboard up on my level line that I drew, and will mark on the top of the board where the point is that will start my first cut, as you see in this view. Notice how I marked about 1/8 of an inch past the house corner. This gives me some slack to fit pieces in, as you'll notice further on. Here is the mark that I just made. From that point, I will strike a perpendicular line down the board as shown using my square. Where the line ends at the bottom of the board is my datum point for my next measurement, which will also be at the bottom of the board. Here, I take a piece of scrap clapboard, and you'll see the thickest part on the bottom. I line it up on the bottom next to my datum point. What I'm doing is transferring that thickness and making a mark, because when you make a 45-degree join with these boards on the house, this will naturally assume an angle to match the piece of clapboard that it's meeting up to. So I strike an angular line from my new bottom mark and my top mark. See, there's the top. I'm going to draw a line straight down to my new bottom mark, and that will be my actual cut line. Again, it will assume the natural outward pitch of the clapboard that it's meeting up to when it's put together at a 45-degree angle. This is where it gets tricky. I will also be cutting a beveled angle, which is a tilt of the saw blade at 45 degrees, going this way. This has now become a compound miter. So the angle I just drew will also be getting a 45-degree bevel cut at the same time. I'll be doing this with a circular saw. So now here's a circular saw. As you can see, it's perpendicular, it's flat. Saw blade is perpendicular to flat of the guard. I need to go at 45 degrees. Here, if you turn this knob right here, loosen it up, you can change that guard. Notice how I'm not touching the trigger. I handle the saw otherwise, by the hub of the motor or whatever. And then or you can unplug it too to do that. And then I loosen it. I go all the way. I can only go as far as 45 degrees. All right. And then I'm going to tighten that back up. Now, if you notice, when my guard is flat on the board, sawing along, my blade is tilted. So, let's give this a go. All right, let me show you. Now I have that 45-degree cut. A little raggedy on the end, that's okay. A little sandpaper and primer, fix that. It's 45 degrees right there, but I also follow the outward angle of the clapboard that I'll meet it up to. I'm gonna try this out, line it up, make sure it's a good fit. And looks like it's going to be good. At this point, I am going to do some pre-drilling where I'm going to put my nails in. It just lessens the chance of having any splits or anything like that. And I will go ahead and mount it, but I'm not going to hammer them in all the way. I like to have a little bit of slack in case I need to reposition the board, or if something happens. Until it's all signed, sealed, delivered, totally approved, then I'll go ahead and hammer them in all the way. I'm going to take my level and just double check, make sure, even though I see my line, I just want to make sure it is truly level. Now that the clapboard is up, you see the angle coming out, which will also match the pitch of the angle of the mating clapboard, and it's easier to see this. Now you see this bevel cut that will meet at 45 degrees with the piece that meets it, but you see how on the flat surface it has to be cut outwards at an angle to match the pitch of the mating clapboard. So that's why it's compound angles going on here. Now you'll see me sharpening my pencil. Couldn't find a carpenter's pencil. These pencils wear down real quick, just a normal number 2 pencil. But if you sand it, you can get enough lead to at least mark with. See that lead showing now? That's what I do if I don't have a knife handy. Now I'm going to take a short piece of clapboard, long enough for me to cut down from, and I'm going to transfer the marks at the bottom and the top of the clapboard where my mating clapboard meets. I'm going to mark the top, mark the bottom, and I'm going to get myself some lines. Here I'm using a square just to double check that I have gotten where it should be. And I'll show it to you. I have a mark on the bottom of my board. I'll put it towards the front of my board. And I will do the same thing, marking a straight line like I did before from that point. See, I use my square. I'll mark a straight line. Well, actually, here's my top mark too that I took. So I get that mark. And actually, at this point, I don't have to draw a straight line. I think I can just connect my points. I'm going to be drawing an angle to that point and delete that piece of material. So I'll go ahead and show you the connected lines after they're drawn. And there it is. There's my angle that I will be cutting. I connected the top and bottom lines. And I will also be doing the miter cut. And here we go again. And I'm cutting from the other side of the board because I have to meet the same angles. You have to be cautious which way your 45-degree bevel cut with a blade tilt is going, because you need those two cuts to meet up together, as you'll see. Also keep in mind, when I say a 45-degree cut, it actually should be like a 46-degree cut, but I don't have that capability with just my circular saw. So I'm almost going to hand carve out with my circular saw a little bit more. This takes some skill. You could also use a sander just to take away more from that bevel to make sure they meet. But here's my angular cut. Alright? But I really have to cut this piece in a little bit more to make sure that I truly get a good miter meeting, if you will, a miter joint. Now I'm going to show you how I'm doing that with my saw. Maybe you're not ready to do that with a saw yet, but here it is as is, and you can see the whole theory of it all. Now see this gap line in here? You can see it better that way. That's because when you use a true 45 degrees, there's too much meat underneath. It should be a little bit bigger angle, like 46 degrees. So I'm going to take away some of that wood there. Just take that edge off. Again, if you're not comfortable, you can use a hand file. You can do whatever. I'm comfortable in using the saw. You have to be very careful. Previously I was calling this plate the guard. What I meant to say was guide. It's the guide plate. So I'm going to tilt my saw even more by holding the actual guard, which is what my thumb is doing. I'm going to hold it with my thumb. Okay, there's the guard. It will not come up itself when you're doing such slight cutting, and it could get jammed. Okay, there's my big foot. Kind of lets you see everything, right? Alright, I'll hold it with my hand. What I'm going to do is first, with my thumb, pull up the guard, and I'm going to hold it. See, my thumb's still holding that guard out of the way. Then my fingers are going to walk when I'm sawing as I progress. You have to be extremely careful with this. Here we go. See, I'm still holding it with my thumb. My fingers are guiding me to come up, and I'm taking a little bit of beef off, making sure not to ruin my outside angled line. And this is pretty much what I'll end up with. It almost looks like I gouged some out. Well, I did. That's enough that it's not my way that the two pieces will meet nicely. You'll see. Now let's put it up, and look what you have here. Look at that right there. I'm gonna go slow so you can catch this. Nice joint right there. Works well. Now I'm showing you where I went up many rows with the clapboard, got those nice miters. Here was a problem I had. Next to this post, I have a flat surface. It can't accept the angle of a miter from the clapboard. This railing post. Very tight squeeze. So I took flat pieces of existing leftover clapboard and I inserted them flat until I came to my mitered angles. I want you to see how I took the same thickness and made these flat pieces. And what I did was I cut angles out of them and I used finishing nails to put them in. I'll caulk and I'll prime and all that. See how this matches the pitch of the clapboard on the outside? So when you look inside of the house, it has a pitch of the clapboard just like the mitered corners do. So you have that illusion of that and continuity. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave a comment. I hope this video gave you some ideas or new insights how to handle the mitered corners of clapboard, or anything else for that matter. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.